Hello Exiles, this is Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming and welcome to another Path of Exile video. Today is probably going to be my last Path of Exile 1 video for a while. Gonna start getting back into POE 2 in preparation for everything that's coming out with that. But in the meantime, I wanted to go over my experience with Legacy of Phrecia League, and specifically, I very much wanted to talk about the most interesting part of this whole league or event scenario, which in my opinion was the idol system. The different ascendancies were very cool as well. I only really played with a couple of them. I had a lot of build ideas, but I ended up feeling pretty locked into the builds I was playing just because I was enjoying them so much, which definitely isn't a bad thing. And I got to play two of my favorite builds of all time, or my favorite skills, Frostblades and Molten Strike, in ways that I haven't gotten to play them before that had interesting and powerful interactions. However, the most interesting thing for me was still the idol system. I have mixed feelings on it to some degree, simply because I am not very organized and I felt like there was a lot of micromanaging involved. However, I do think that overall it was a very good system. It's just there were a lot of them and you had to sort through them and buy them all the time, and as somebody who likes to do a lot of different strategies, I wasn't having too much fun until I did find a strategy that was extremely profitable. The footage you're seeing in the background, some of my highlight drops from a few maps. I think I filmed like 9 or 10 maps just to kind of showcase some of the drops, and I actually made quite a few, like 500-600 divine in the course of 4 or 5 days using a strongbox strategy that I went over yesterday, and I'll link that video in the description. But the main thing I wanted to talk about is whether or not idols should go core and how they would go core, and I thought about it a little bit and I think I have a good idea. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a nice little paint graphic I made and kind of pitch to you my idea for idols going into the core game. Alright, so here is my proposal, I suppose, for the idol system. The way I would implement it is I would put the another kind of skill tree on top of the atlas at the very tippy top, right where all of like the bossing stuff is currently, and maybe move some of that stuff out of the way. And on the top, I would put this little set of trees here, which for the small nodes, I have 1% chance for idols to drop from tier 16 plus bosses. I would have idols be only dropping from high tier bosses, tier 16 and 17 bosses, and then potentially also like, you know, pinnacle bosses, uber bosses, anything special like that, conquerors, elder influenced, shaper influenced, anything along those lines, those kinds of bosses. And I would have this little tree. I made it out here. You can see I have, for the small nodes, 1% chance for those to drop. For the first big node, for 12 nodes total, by the way, we have a 5% chance to drop. And then for the second big node, it unlocks 10 idol slots. And I mocked up a little idol tree that you can get once you start unlocking these higher points. And so here we have the top part of the tree in green. So you unlock these 10 slots. This is a 20 slot instead of 32 slot. The reason, I don't think the layout's perfect. I didn't think about it too much. I just kind of mocked it up because the current setup makes the horizontal 3x1s a lot worse, because it would get in the way of using a 2x2 or conquer idol. But the way it's set up, potentially once you have everything unlocked, you could have like one conquer idol or two conquer idols, two of the vertical 3x1s, one of the 2x1s, or two of the 2x1s, and two different 1x1s basically. So more or less, when you get this big one, you would unlock the first one, the like top half, all the green ones here, and then when you unlock this next one, you would get all of the blue ones. The layout could probably be balanced a little bit because, like I said, also the vertical 2x1s are a little bit weaker in this setup in some ways. So there's some limitations in the way that I have this layout currently, but there's a lot of possibilities. Like you could have 4 total 3x1s, for instance. There's a lot of different setups you could have. And my proposal would be you are going to cut the idol's power by roughly 50%. But those could be balanced based on potential power. Like some strategies are going to be a lot better than others, and some might need a little bit of help. So maybe things that are a little less available on the tree get bumped up a little higher than 50%. Maybe some things that are already extremely powerful and valuable get bumped down a little bit. And there's like a range of maybe like 35 to 65% of their current power. But just as a general rule, like say for instance, Conquer Idols with 2 strong boxes extra, those go down to 1. The 12% chance or the 8 to 12% chance for a harvest plant to not wilt goes from 4 to 6 now, for instance. So that way you can kind of add these to hyper specialize certain aspects of your tree and kind of get these extra bits of power without, absolutely breaking the game. Kind of makes them a little bit more balanced. Also, the limitation of having less potential idols would kind of bring that balance point as well. The second point of balance is it would require 12 points and be in a specific part of the tree that takes a lot to travel in, which would limit you from overloading your atlas with a bunch of powerful strategies at once. You'd probably be limited to maybe 1 or 2 different strategies you could use, and then you could make your idols as close as you could synergize with those. So there's a couple of different opportunity costs. The next opportunity cost is that you could only get them from high-end bosses, so you'd have to, do some bossing and possibly still recombinate and everything, assuming that Settlers goes core in some way, which would be ideal. I think both systems could use less micromanaging, so I hope that if Settlers does go core, it doesn't require the, TLC, the tender loving care kind of attention that it does now. Maybe it's something you engage with a little bit more periodically instead of, almost constantly, it feels like. I do love the Settlers League, and I do love the mechanics of Calgar, but I do think it's just a little bit too much, and I feel the same way about the idol system. By limiting them only to high-tier boss drops, and by having, in this case, it would be a grand total of 14%, which, by the way, would synergize with other boss rush strategies, which are already at the top of the tree. And so you could grab those with this, do like a nice mesa, or probably more likely like a city square, something that's quick to get to the bosses, beach, anything like that. And you just rush the boss, get those down, and you could even kind of double dip by having, the boss idols as well. So you could have a lot of cool stuff going on there, or you could hyper specialize your strong boxes or your harvests, that kind of thing. And by adding it onto the tree, you could get rid of the unique ones, or you could have separate unique ones that have keystones that don't exist. Just add new things without having to add new keystones onto the tree. So you get new, unique, possibly more interesting, unique idols, and those could potentially change, and those could be added or removed as needed to make each league feel special and unique. Because it is likely, if this was on the tree, eventually everybody would pretty much gravitate towards it. But by weakening the power and adding opportunity cost, it doesn't make it mandatory, and I think that's important. It's probably on the very top end going to end up being mandatory. Adding any kind of potential power that can be min-maxed like that does eventually become kind of the standard, but it won't be part of like a league start strategy. It'll be something you kind of gravitate towards later as you start to accumulate resources, get idols. Idols become available on the market, and as you start wanting to settle in and specialize a little bit more in anything you're doing. So I do think this or something similar would be a really awesome inclusion, potentially. And pretty much, in my opinion, one of the only good ways to really implement the whole idol system into the game. I don't think there's a lot of other ways that it could be done that would be good or interesting. And you could either put you could put your slots for your idols either in the map device like it is currently, or you could put it on the Atlas tree itself. It becomes its own little separate inventory that's manageable on the Atlas tree. Anything like that. Not really sure, but I do think this is a fun and interesting idea. If you have any other ideas, or if you just are a hard no on idols, let me know in the comment section. This is just my thoughts overall. Hope you enjoyed Legacy of Phrecia. If you're going to continue playing it, I would highly recommend trying my strongbox strategy, once again in the description below. If you are enjoying any of my content and have been, enjoy my Path of Exile 2 content, I would appreciate, leaving a like, or possibly considering becoming a channel member, which gives me a little bit more steady income, helps me, make videos, make more time to make more videos. This has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I will see you next time. Bye.